Hello, my name is Ashing and I am a compulsive binge eater absent on the grey sheet 105 days. I heard when I came here you will find out what you ate when you put the food down, and I understand that today. Looking back, I can't believe the power food had over my life. It wasn't me doing life, it was life happening while I ate. I used food for everything. It was my friend, my crutch, my answer to all life's problems. As a child, I didn't have the opportunity to binge, but I would refuse to eat anything that wasn't a sugar, grain, or a starch. As a 5-year-old, I would have a head full of the fighting that was happening in my home, and I would get out of my head on baked goods my mother would make. I learned love was expressed through food. I would sit in the classroom away from other children, as I always felt different, worthless, and set apart, and would get lost in these baked goods wishing I had more. As an 8-year-old, I got out of my head on greasy, fatty foods in the neighbourhood house where I was abused for years to follow. I began robbing at this age and now had access to sugar. At 11, when I was being bullied, I would go home, lock the door, self-harm in the comfort of my only friend, food. I was so lonely and food seemed to be the only comfort for the turmoil in my head and the self-hatred in my heart. I thought my face and body was distorted and wore huge hoodies to cover up every inch of my skin. At 11, I was introduced to more crutches I could use alongside the food. I began the act of being a clown as I had no other sense of identity. All I knew was this obsession with food. One of the greatest gifts I got from being abstinent is the journey of self-discovery. I feel so raw and real at times. I need to turn to God and this community to keep me in balance. But the excitement getting to know myself is the greatest gift I think I could ever receive. I've discovered talents I never knew I had for grey sheet clarity. I love that I'm no longer in a food fog. I began being known as Ashling, the weird, crazy girl that loved food. I wouldn't leave the house unless there was food involved. At 16, I worked in a chipper and the boss commented, "I won't be getting paid as I'm eating all of the profits." The workers in the greasy takeout places knew me by name. At this time, I didn't lose all control while in the act of binging. I kind of just ate all day. I began a community-run cooking course at 21, and this is when my binge eating became uncontrollable. 5 days a week, I cooked mountains of food using flour and sugar and would eat until I would expand. I would begin eating a blackout all this time in public. My friend said to me one day, "Stop eating like that in my company, you're making a show of me." I didn't know what she meant at the time. I would eat a certain takeout food that would give me crippling pains in my stomach. One time I was eating this food and the pain was so unmerciful I had to go to the bathroom, take off all of my clothes because I was sweating uncontrollably, and I passed out on the floor from the pain. I came to, and when I had the strength to get up, I wobbled back into the room, picked up the food and continued eating it again. I honestly thought I was about to die on that bathroom floor, but still continued eating the food. The compulsion to eat once I started was out of my control. My disease progressed in this manner for another 8 years, and nothing but shame and insanity was to follow. The 6 months before finding grey sheet was the worst. I came here crippled emotionally, physically, and spiritually. I was suicidal. I could not manage my eating, restricting for 24 hours, eating low carb, no carb, high fat, no fat, going to OA, and still would find myself face down the foods we don't eat, failing numerous times a day, telling myself one last time. Failing was so tiring day after day, hour after hour. I felt truly worthless. But now I understand I have a mental and physical disease, that I should have compassion for myself like I would any person with an illness. I would binge for hours and come out of it in a haze, spending all my week's money to live off in 2 days, hitting up numerous restaurants and shops in some sort of blackout haze. I had to drop out of my last year of law after restricting the binging prior to the first exam that left me so fogged up mentally I had a massive panic attack with no mental clarity to even spell my name correctly. I had to leave my job as I would binge so much my joints would seize up and I couldn't walk. I found myself alone in my house, unshowered for days, crying into food we don't eat, repeatedly saying one last time for that one ultimate hit and then I'll stop. I now see this was my disease convincing me to stay in its clutches because it wants me in misery, away from a spiritual way of living and my higher power's will for me. I had to plead to God for help even though I didn't believe he could help me. I felt hopeless, but God did what I couldn't do for myself and continues to do when I seek him. I was crying in another 12-step room of the misery food was causing me, and a GreySheeter reached out and told me about this program. I got 14 days weighing and measuring and felt amazing. I was trying to manage my eating for years, and now I had an easy set plan to follow and I was buzzing on a high from the solution, but it came with exceptions. I knew better, and I thought it was fine to go over a little bit, or if things we don't eat was third on the list. I slipped back into hell and came back 2 weeks later truly beaten into submission, and began listening, shutting up with excuses and getting on with it. My sponsor is beautifully scary. She called me out on my drama and excuses. I started doing the suggested things, meeting calls, YouTube videos, and keeping food simple. I came here not wanting to die, and what I got was so much more than I could have imagined. The withdrawal was hellish, and the need to eat was cruel at times. But time went on and things got easier. The self-hatred has eased. My body isn't expanding and bloating all day long. I don't look grey with a sunken face and dead eyes. I don't smell like puke from not being able to hold down the massive quantities of food I force into my dying body. I'm not asking for 6 helpings of foods in restaurants where people look at me in disgust. Food this year made my world fall apart, but my dream job is on the horizon, and things beyond my wildest dreams are manifesting because I stay close to this program and my higher power that both wants me happy and free from food addiction. Feeling feelings has not been easy. In the past, I ate on every emotion, and now I don't have the food to hide in. It is beautifully difficult, but I have a 12-step way of living in this community to depend on to teach me how to feel and live without compulsive eating. I ate while life happened around me. Today I truly live while I eat 3 delicious weighed and measured meals away from the misery of compulsive binge eating. I had to surrender that I have a disease of my mind, body and spirit. I needed to be told how and what to eat. I needed a power greater than mine to intervene and give me the strength to accept I have a disease that when I eat sugar, grains or starches, I lose all control. I have no sense of volume when it comes to food, so I need to weigh my food so I don't tip into a binging frenzy again. My thinking tells me things on a daily basis like, just use a little bit more fat, it's fine. This food plan will make me fat. Don't bother connecting, you can do this alone. You don't need a Zoom meeting, you have over 90 days. People don't understand how painful this is for you and I should get special treatment. My AA sponsor tells me to ignore 100% of my thinking unless it is for practical or creative purposes, because my disease is in my thinking. My disease thinking tells me I'm too fat, too thin, that fruit will kill me, even though my disease thought it perfectly reasonable to eat 9 packs of stuff we don't eat at a time. It tells me I'm not worthy, useless and ugly. It tells me that food will comfort me when I feel lonely, that it will make me feel happy and comforted if I just give in. Physically, once I introduce these foods, I cannot stop eating more. I have an allergy that ignites as soon as I eat these foods, that makes me unable to stop until I'm physically sick. Spiritually, it keeps me away from my higher power. When I'm in the food obsession, I'm making food my higher power. I never believed I could eat the way that we do. I've eaten abstinently in 5 different countries this year. I ate my prepared meals in professional settings. I ate my meals during a horrible recent breakup, crying while I ate my weighed and measured meals. I ate in planes, trains, fancy hotels, and out of a wheelie bag while I was in between living arrangements. I cursed this program and this illness and cried with gratitude for this way of living. It is an up and down journey, but one day at a time, I'm learning it is okay to feel feelings. I don't need to eat to feel less lonely or to feel comforted in some way. Some days I can take on the world, and other days the most I can do is write down, commit, and eat 3 weighed, measured meals. I'm making my higher power in this program the most important thing in my life today. I put my relationship before and I slipped. I put people pleasing before and I slipped. I put my obsession to blog about food before and I slipped. Since putting this first, life seems to be working out better than I could have imagined. I need to let go and trust in my higher power and this community and let God work out my life for me, because I don't do a great job doing it myself. I'm very grateful to have found this community. It's kind of mind-blowing to me that I'm sitting here with under 5 days not eating the way that I have done. I'm very grateful for the members of this community that has helped me, and that's it. Thank you.